Good morning, everybody, and a happy Tuesday morning to you. We have a little bit of royal family news, and then we have, why am I not surprised that Harry made some unbelievable demands of King Charles? And I'm absolutely freaking shocked by these demands. And then, of course, I managed to make it through episode 6 of Meghan's show. So let's just jump in and get busy because you're not going to believe this. Let's go. To start with, Prince William and Princess Catherine shared a post on their social media. It was a picture that was taken by Liz Hatton at Windsor Castle. Remember, this fabulous young lady died last November following a battle with a rare form of cancer. And on August 31st, it would have been her 18th birthday. So there's a photograph of a picture taken at Windsor Castle by Liz just weeks before her death. So Catherine and William wrote, remembering Liz Hatton today on what would have been her 18th birthday. And it shows that the image was taken by Liz during an investiture at Windsor Castle in October of 2024. And it's on display in the exact spot where it was taken. What a wonderful tribute. Let's move on. It's being suggested that while Harry is in the UK, that he very well may see Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, that he could set a time to see them while he's there. Now, I have to be honest, several people have said, I think they're done with him, but even after what Meghan pulled at Eugenie's wedding, and even after all the horrible things he said about the family, Eugenie still went to Montecito to meet Harry and Meghan and hang out there with her kids. So a lot of people are saying that the sisters might be the bridge between the Sussexes and the royals, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that. I believe that they were asked to make a choice. They made their choice and they landed firmly on the side of the royals. All right, let's move on. Now, in the middle of all of this, Harry and Meghan have basically told everybody in the world that while they left the royal family and they barely escaped with their lives and their sanity intact, they want their children to be able to return to the fold and make the decision for themselves whether they're going to be royal, working royals. But apparently the royal family is saying no. Under the next reign with William, the roles for them are unlikely. So basically, Harry and Meghan stepping away and consistently attacking the royal family has screwed their children's futures. And William is now talking about a slimmed down monarchy as well. So when he becomes king, I think Beatrice and Eugenie might become working royals. I think that Sophie and Edward's children might become working royals. And I think that Harry and Meghan's children will lose their titles because they're useless in the United States. That's my thought. Moving on. Of course, now PR puff pieces are continuing. Prince William is resisting his brother's pleas for a public reconciliation to mark the 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death with everything he's got. In other words, don't forget that Harry is going to be doing a 30-year anniversary documentary with Netflix. And what's being said is that he wants William in it. That's what's being claimed. He wants to heal their fractured bond. He believes his mother would want their sons united. And he's privately pushing for joint events, including support at the Invictus Games. Well, that's because Harry's on the outs. He's in free fall. He knows that William can help him and his wife. William is saying no, rightfully so. All right, we're going to talk really quickly about these articles and why the palace was so angry about Harry's TV appearance where he claimed that his loss of his security was a stitch up. For about a year, Harry had maintained a very low profile with regards to the royal family. Meghan was busy with, her new business ventures, her lifestyle show with Love Meghan, her household goods and all this kind of stuff. And now Harry's resigned from Simpsonville. We know what's going on there, so I'm not going through that. And a couple of days later, he appeared in Britain because his legal team was taking his case against the British government to the Court of Appeals. Now, there was no need for him to appear. Many legal experts could see no reason for his presence in court, even though he was scribbling on Post-it notes and sipping water and, doing all of this other stuff. After the king heard that Harry was coming to London, the king offered him accommodations at Buckingham Palace, and Harry said no, because I guess the palace is unsafe. So he ended up staying in a hotel. 1 month later, he learned that he had lost the case. So what did he do? He went to a borrowed house with the BBC News crew. He was going to give them 10 minutes, and he went on for 30 minutes, even insinuating that the royal household had conspired against him. He made comments like, "I have to be careful what I say." He then claimed the government committee reviewing his security had been infiltrated by royal officials and operated outside the law to deprive him and his family of the protection readily granted to others. Now, the palace response was very short, but they basically pointed out after 5 years that these issues have been repeatedly examined and meticulously by the courts, with the same conclusion reached on each occasion. This was also when Harry made the comments about, "I don't know how much longer my dad has," insisted that his father could fix it if he wanted. And then we found out that the palace was aware of this being broadcast minutes before it was broadcast. So as the Duke might say, it felt like a bit of a stitch up. The courtiers and staff also noticed what Harry was now doing. In March of 2023, Charles was on his first state visit to Germany. Prince Harry unnecessarily flew to London to watch preliminaries of one of his court cases. When the king was starting his 2025 state visit to Italy, Harry did the same thing again. Then when the king flew to Canada, Harry made a surprise appearance in Shanghai. So, he's constantly trying to go against the king. So royal officials were not unrelieved when Harry put his head around the corner of the door of the Court of Appeals while the king was already on his state visit to Italy. It's just not going to work, guys. Now, we know that there's supposed to be a meeting, and he's going to confront his father, Harry is. Apparently, however, he has a significant list of stipulations that must be met before he agrees to engage in any face-to-face discussions. So I find this very interesting. So basically, when the meeting doesn't happen, here's his reason for saying it didn't happen. Number one, he wants full security for himself, Meghan, and their kids whenever they're in the UK, and the king has to pay for it, since the government won't, and Harry's not going to pay for it himself. So he doesn't want another trip where he feels unprotected and exposed. The second demand from Harry is that he is requesting Buckingham Palace take charge of managing the media interactions so that he and his family are shielded from the invasive British paparazzi. And basically, he wants to control the narrative around their visiting. But the third one is absolutely ridiculous. Harry has stated he wants Meghan to be treated with the HRH. She must have the customary bows and curtsies from family members, even though she stepped down from her royal duties. He wants Meghan to be treated like an HRH, so she must have the formal respect. And for William, that's a hard no. Wasn't it Meghan who said, "I've been a duchess, a wife, a cook, I'm very clear on who I am. I don't need those titles"? You remember when she said that on Oprah? Apparently, she does need the titles. She wants them badly. All right, let's talk about Martha Stewart again. Remember, she said, and I quote, "I don't really know her very well. I hope she knows what she's talking about. Authenticity to me is everything, and to be authentic and knowledgeable about your subject matter is extremely important." So the way Martha sees it, if you're going to try something, do it right. Meghan's an imposter. She has no experience or know-how in the entertainment sector. And so Martha really can't hide her disdain for Meghan and is calling her out for being inauthentic and an embarrassment to the profession in the field. She said, Meghan's a joke and she needs to go away. All right, let's keep going. Let's move on now. Meghan Markle has now restocked, and we know she has the new fruit spread, and she's pushing it, and it's like, yeah, whatever. I'm just as expensive as the other ones. It's not a lot. Yeah. Well, Nancy Sidley pointed out that she doesn't put her logo on the top of the lid anymore. Notice there, it's not there. But notice on her other one, it is. Exactly. Well, when the money starts running out, you got to cut corners somewhere. That's my take on it. Let's move on. Remember when Meghan gave the interview on Circuit and she wore this yellow outfit? I knew it looked familiar. Yeah, it's a copy from Catherine's outfit. So now, I think since her style is kind of sucking, she's wearing the stuff that Catherine used to wear. But at least Catherine had the good sense to wear a slip underneath. She's not trying to show everything off like Meghan does. And it was during that interview that she took the dig again at the royals talking about the pantyhose. But that probably angered Netflix because she didn't make that revelation on the Netflix show, but instead she did it during an interview that was released the same day as her streaming program. And so I'm sure that Netflix didn't approve of that, and it probably upset them. Yeah. Frankly, I was shocked she didn't dress like Diana during this show because she dresses like Diana at every other frickin' event. All right, let's get into episode number 6. So Meghan, it starts off with her walking through the rental properties gardens with the music playing, and there's some bees, and she goes, oh, happy bees. And then she goes, we're picking fresh mint to go into a green juice for Claire. Claire Smith is an incredible chef. She's one of the very few female chefs in the world to have 3 Michelin stars at her restaurant, Core. And when I was living in London, I went and tried her food, and I fell in love, and I asked her if she would cook for the dinner for our wedding, and she's so talented and down to earth. The whole time she's talking, she's like making faces and she's looking coy at the camera. She can't just talk. She's acting. She's not a very good actress. So this comes across as very inauthentic. Anyway, she says the woman likes to juice. So she says, I'm going to green juice. Then we start to hear some of her bud words. This is a lot of love because I love drinking green juice, and the juicing, the act of it, is not my favorite thing. But since her cooking philosophy is about working with fresh local ingredients, I thought it would be really fun to show Claire a bit of my community in Santa Barbara. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. She made it. She doesn't tell us all the ingredients. We don't know what's in it, but they make sure to get plenty of shots of her wedding rings. So the music's playing and she makes it and labels it. So now, of course, some shots from the outside, more music, and now we're in the craft barn. And Meghan goes, I haven't seen Claire Smith in so long. She's traveled quite a way to come and be with me here. It's a 12-hour flight from London, which can be pretty tiring. And I want to make sure when she comes, I can welcome her with something great. And when she's on her way, I want her to feel loved and nurtured, even when she has left. And so she's making her a travel kit. So she got a canvas travel bag, wrote out safe travels on some transfer paper, and she's writing it out. But what got me was when she picked up the iron to put it down, she goes, this is my June Cleaver moment. And she starts batting her eyes. And I was like, are you kidding? She goes, hi, darlings, how was your day? So she basically just made fun of, women who stay home. Then she starts talking about, you have to think about what you want on the plane. So basically, she got her some monogrammed cashmere socks, some lip balm, an eye mask, a satchel of lavender. It's the same old with her. She puts everything in and goes, it's a carry-on size of love. All right. Then the woman shows up and Meghan greets her on the steps outside. So she pulls out the juice, gives it to her, and of course the chef says, oh yes, you did a great job, delicious. Then Meghan says, we're going to the fish market. And the chef goes, I'm really excited about that. And then we're going to make seafood with vegetables. And she goes, and the fish is different everywhere in the world. Meghan goes, really? And the woman goes, yes. Immediately, Meghan goes, well, this makes me remember my wedding menu. Remember, we had the map where everything was sourced. We wanted people to really appreciate where every ingredient was coming from. That was the most delicious meal. Everyone still talks about it. And the woman goes, I still remember doing your anniversary. We surprised you. And Meghan goes, oh yes, gosh, that was so much fun in that beautiful little old chapel. And it was funny because of all the old buildings. My team was always laughing because you're going through trying not to touch anything. So speaking about this, Meghan goes, potatoes. I made you potato chips. And the woman goes, well, I've never made them before. And so they try them and they turned out pretty well. Which, that segues into Meghan. This is how she makes potato chips. Guess what? She cut them, washed them, fried them, then put salt and vinegar powder on them. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, this was the thing she put up on Instagram when she was making them. She tries them, declares them perfect, passes them out to the people behind the cameras, and then she's back in the kitchen going, so today we're doing Parker House rolls, which I've never made before, and some local fish. And then I want to learn some of your ways for plating. And the woman goes, cool. So then all of a sudden this woman is making bread. Meghan keeps referring, when I lived in London, I fell in love with your bread. She keeps pointing out, I was there, I was in London. Meghan goes, we're not doing the bread that I'm used to. That's not what we're doing, but another bread that you said is easy. And the woman goes, yeah. So the woman is there to cook. So she starts cooking. And this woman is getting down to business. And she goes, we have to do the cilantro wedding table. And basically, Meghan's tables were named after herbs. I don't get it, but okay. Oh, and by the way, just to show you how control freak she is, come to find out Meghan wrote out the menus and then had them copied because she wanted her handwriting on them. They start talking about the difference in the words between the UK and the United States, and Meghan goes, they say zebra instead of zebra. Yeah, I'm sure they do. So they leave the bread to rise. They head to the fish market. There's music playing, and Meghan goes, ooh, it's chilly in here. And they meet like the head guy. And this guy says, oh, yes, we get started at 4 o'clock in the morning. We're the ones that have to feed the people. And there's music playing. You give me good love, good love. Anyway, they choose a halibut. So the fish is on ice. They pull it out, hand it to Meghan. She goes, oh, it's cold. So they hand her one of the halibuts and says, how much do you think this thing weighs? And she holds it up and goes, 23 pounds. So then they go and weigh it, and it's 8 pounds. They tell her it only weighed 8 pounds, and she goes, well, if my daughter weighs this, I'm going to give it this. Yeah, she made a fool of herself. Anyway, she finally walks out. They put the fish in the basket and they walk out, and she thanks the team on her way out. Then, of course, you have the pictures outside the house, and then bam, they're back in the kitchen. So they go back to the kitchen, and the woman goes to make the rolls, and she says, well, we have to measure it out. And Meghan goes, I'm legitimately surprised you have to actually measure a little dinner roll. And the chef kindly responds, but if they're not the same size, they don't cook evenly and they don't look nice. So anyway, they end up making some bread. Meghan says, no one thinks about the level of focus and love that goes into a dinner roll. Now Meghan starts talking about the food at the wedding. You had this beautiful braised, and the chef goes, it was the lamb one. And they're showing pictures from the wedding reception. And they're also talking about the fried chicken at the after party, the late night bites. The woman goes, well, it's not typically something that I do. So we had to try and create a recipe for fried chicken. And we did, and we kept it. We still do it for an off-menu item. And I'm like, first of all, I'm thinking to myself, isn't this the same Meghan that yelled at a chef because she could take eggs in the cake, but she didn't have any problem serving fried chicken at her wedding reception? So all of a sudden, Meghan goes, that's it, I'm done. If that's my claim to fame, then I'm thrilled. And she takes a bow in the middle of the kitchen. So they go back to making the bread, and the chef goes, if you buy good things, they last a lifetime. And Meghan immediately pipes up and goes, it's like my grandmother's cast iron skillet, right? That she would fry chicken in. My mom has that same skillet. Okay, so all of a sudden, Meghan's like, oh, when these rolls are done, I've got compound butter. And then we learned how she made compound butter. By the way, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's basically just butter that's done. You put it in a bowl and you add herbs or lemon or whatever you want to it. You mix it up, you roll it up, and you stick it in the fridge so that it's like herb butter. That's all it is. It's nothing fancy schmancy. By the way, she tries to show you how good her cutting skills are. Look at me, I'm just the best in the kitchen. Now they're back to the halibut. So the chef is cutting, and she's talking about how important it is to go through the first layer. And Meghan goes, it's almost like you're following the seam in the fish itself. Because, Meghan knows what she's doing. So the woman gives Meghan the knife, and Meghan doesn't do it exactly the way she's supposed to. And it's like, that's okay. That's joy. Now they make a broth to poach the fish, and then they're going to turn it into a sauce. And they open up the refrigerator, and this is what it looks like. Nobody's refrigerator looks like this. The woman understands the assignment. She's there to cook, and cook she does. Meghan basically stays out of her way. And as the woman talks, Meghan tries to throw some stuff in there to make herself sound like she's super knowledgeable. But, it's very obvious that she's nowhere near this woman's level, and this woman understands the mission. The music is playing in the background, and Meghan looks at this Michelin star chef and says, if you're going to be in the kitchen at this level, you have to love what you're doing, because this has to be a labor of love. Otherwise, it would just feel tedious. this is where I think the chef might be throwing a little shade, because she says, let's do the vegetables. And she pulls out a vegetable and she goes, my favorite thing is to take a really humble ingredient and turn it into something spectacular. Now the chef is blanching the vegetables and she says, you can see how bright and beautiful they all are. And Meghan immediately says, blanching preserves that color, that vibrancy on the plate. I think it's always so standout. The chef says, the world is so fast and you need to understand the beauty and finesse of something. There's a place for everything, but now everything is so fast. It's a bit of a shame because people miss so much beauty. It's the same in food. So Meghan goes, I also find the moments where we can be super present and sink into how beautiful this is, as opposed to how fast, as you say, the immediate gratification that people crave. So they finish and they're going to plate the food, and Meghan goes, this is the piece that I think, even if you can't do all these layers and all of these techniques, or you don't have the time, or you can't find the ingredients, or it feels overwhelming, you can learn how to beautifully do your plating. I couldn't help but notice that as extra things were being put on top, the chef used this tongue instrument you see in her hand so that her hands don't touch the food. Meghan, on the other hand, put her fingers right into the food, and of course, she put flowers all over the fish. So they sit down to eat. Meghan goes, cheers. Thanks for a great day. I hope it wasn't too painful. And the chef goes, no, not at all. And Meghan goes, oh, I learned so much. So here's what I got from this entire thing. One of my subscribers said it perfectly. She said Meghan has two types of people on the show, either bullies or people who don't really know her. This woman was hired to do her wedding cooking. She's not friends with Meghan. Meghan doesn't know her, and she doesn't really know Meghan. But I guess Meghan ran out of people, so they brought her all the way from London to cook so she could have somebody on her show. But Meghan tries to make it seem like they're the best of friends. How long have we known each other? And the chef goes, I don't know, 7 years? Yeah, I was just engaged at the time when I came trying to find you. Life has changed. The world has changed. You've opened so many more restaurants, gotten so many more stars. I'm so proud of you and all of your accomplishments and what you're doing. This woman does not need validation from Meghan Markle. So then Meghan goes, well, I have some gifts for you before you travel back. And she gives her the travel pack. And then she gives her a couple of books and goes, here, I wanted to let you know about, my area where I live now. Meghan then says, you do all the steps and all the behind the scenes, the amount of love and labor in the process. It's what made it so delicious. She finishes up with more word salad, and then they show a picture of Harry. It's a surprise visit. And then, of course, they end with a picture of the travel kit she gave as this woman is leaving the country. This was in my opinion, this was a very edited show. I think they had to edit it together, piecemeal it together, and this was what they put out. It was a very long and, quite frankly, boring show for me. All right, you guys, you know what I want. Put those comments down, make them good. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the links to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my second channel, a link to my father's book, which is still up for sale on Amazon, and a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.